So I'm continuing to look at this channeler who's definitely not channeling anything but his own mind. But yeah, so this next question that he asks or gets asked is about forgiveness and how do you handle or how do you cope with forgiveness? And I think his response is ridiculous.
But I think the idea of forgiveness is extraordinarily practical, and it's not, as some people would like to say, about becoming docile and letting yourself get stepped on. I don't think that's it at all. It's about not binding you to the event, to the person, to the situation that you end up reinforcing through the block. Because it does block the heart. It does block love, no question.
How do you balance that in the real world, in material, like you were saying? Because if someone wrongs me, and I go, it's all good.
That's not it.
Yeah, please explain it. So I want clarity if you can.
Let me see if they can do it. The idea of forgiveness is misunderstood by forgiving or releasing yourself. By forgiving, you're releasing yourself from bondage, from a bondage you have placed or tied yourself to.
See, what he said there just doesn't make any sense. It's like forgiveness is misunderstood because you've tied yourself to a situation through some sort of bondage, and it doesn't make sense what he's saying. You know, forgiveness is forgiving someone or not, and I think it all depends on what you're forgiving them for. What is the crime? Have they killed your son? Or have they just stolen something that you don't actually want or didn't actually want? Or have they just insulted you in a way, but they didn't realize that you would, take it as offensively as you did? If you make a joke about your mum being a terrible person and that's why you're a terrible person, you might say it out of sort of carelessness, and you might not realize that actually that person's mum has died because of a drug overdose or something, and therefore you've actually hurt them a lot more than you realize. So forgiveness is about what you're forgiving them for, and it's got nothing to do with a bondage or a tie. I don't know what he's talking about.
Or tied yourself to realize the self, to realize the self as free from another is to allow them to be, is indeed to allow them to be. Now your question is very simple.
To be free from another is to allow them to be? I mean, what the hell are you talking about?
Now your question is very simple. How is this done? How is this done? And what is the affect? And what is the affect? It takes people to have a war. It takes two people to have a war. It takes one person to walk away from battle. It takes one person to walk away from a battle.
It takes two people to have a war. It takes one person to walk away. I guess that's kind of true, but what's that got to do with forgiveness? I mean, that's just saying that if someone asks you for your forgiveness, you should just walk away because you don't want to create some sort of bondage or tie to them. That's almost like what you're saying, but you're not saying that. You're saying nonsense and gibberish, and it's like you just want people to look up to you and see you in a certain way. Hence, you're trying to air this facade of intelligence, but it's not intelligence.
It takes one person to forgive a wrong. It takes one person to forgive a wrong. Now, accountability is still required, You understand the idea of karma.
If you were to have an intelligent conversation about forgiveness, you have to ask lots of questions about what it is that is on your mind in regards to what it is that needs to be forgiven, or how long were they acting in an inappropriate way. I am Christ, and I have a lot of people doing things about me behind my back, promoting shit, whilst claiming that they're actually just talking for me when they're not, claiming to know me and they don't. I've had to put up with this for 11 years. Now, people think that Christ is just going to come back and be like, oh yeah, I forgive you, and that's just not how it is, because of the extent of what you've done, the extent of how awful my life is. If my life has been ruined over this, I don't see why your life shouldn't be ruined over this. Now, you could say that that's very unforgiving, but I would just say, well, you were very unforgiving towards me because I did not deserve the life that I was given. Hence, the crime is far more severe than what it was if you would have come and tried to help me in 2013. You didn't. No one's tried to help me. I've been going on mad about this for years and years and years, and I'm not just going to be like, oh yeah, I forgive you, because that's not how it works. You don't deserve forgiveness, so sometimes you don't deserve to give forgiveness. Okay, you're going to end up causing problems on yourself by not forgiving others, but if you feel like your life has been destroyed because of this, you shouldn't have to give forgiveness to other people so that they can live a better life when they never gave you that chance. So sometimes forgiveness is not actually necessary because they don't deserve it, and I strongly feel that, because I've had so many people almost tell me that I have to forgive them even though they don't even know me, and even if I try to contact them and tell them that I was Christ, they will just be like, oh no, you're not, leave me alone. So how can I just be like, okay, you've finally seen the truth now and I'm going to forgive you? That's not how forgiveness works. And but yeah, just to say the gibberish that you've said is very undescriptive on what you're actually referring to or talking about.
You understand the idea of karma as punishment as punishment. It is not punishment. It is not punishment. It is an opportunity. It is an opportunity to learn. The lessons will come again and again until you learn them. The lessons will come again and again until you learn them. To realize another is of God. To realize another is of God, regardless of what they've done, regardless of what they have done, is also to forgive yourself, is also to forgive yourself.
Why would you forgiving them have anything to do with knowing that they are of God? And forgiving them is like forgiving yourself. That doesn't make sense. I'm sure there's plenty of circumstances where that does not apply.
For not being who you thought you were, for not being who you were supposed to be. The idea of Christ, or the inner light as Redeemer is actually accurate, The realization of the inherent divine, in another where it has been denied, where it has been denied, will not only redeem them, it will release the cord between you. It will release the cord between you that was forged in anger or fear.
In that part you talk about the importance of Christ and Christ being the Redeemer that's accurate, and it's like you're talking to yourself and then sort of backing yourself up with more confirmation. It's like, Christ is the Redeemer? Yes, that is accurate. Christ is the Redeemer.
The idea of Christ, or the inner light as Redeemer is actually accurate, The realization of the inherent divine, in another where it has been denied, where it has been denied, will not only redeem them, it will release the cord between you. It will release the...
It's nonsense what you're talking about, but yeah. I can help, but I can't really, because I feel like this world has just committed a ton of crimes against me, so I'm not going to help you forgive each other because I'm so angry at what you've done to me.
That was forged in anger or fear. You may have any kind of boundary you wish. You may have any kind of boundary you wish. You should not allow somebody to hit you in the head. You should not allow someone to hit you in the head. You should take the stick from their hand and say no. This is not about being a victim. This is not about being a victim, but as we say, you cannot be a victim. You cannot be a victim and a master at the same time, period.
Disagree with that statement. I am Christ, but I'm also God, so I am a victim of this world, but I'm also the master of this world, because it's my higher self that has placed me in this position and allowed people to do what they have done to maybe piss me off, so that I create some sort of bad karma against the world and keep the world in sort of, I don't know, I don't want to believe that I'm making it worse, but they're making it worse for me, so I don't care if I am making it worse for other people. I don't know, I'm in some sort of trap and prison, and I don't care if you feel the same way, because this is how I feel, and no one seems to be getting me out of this prison.
Much more clear on that.
Okay, good.
That's very clear.
That is such a funny response to this. Clearly this guy is thinking, I have no idea what you said, what intelligence there was in that, but because you said it so fast, it's hard to respond to that. If you would have just said all that gibberish to me and I was having to respond, I would have been more honest, and I would have been like, what the fuck did you just say? I have no clue. It didn't sound intelligent or accurate or truthful. Some things probably did, not everything is going to be not truthful, but yeah, I think he was feeling that but didn't want to say anything because of the level of respect that he has for you when you're talking normally. But yeah, you sound so much better when you're talking normally, so I would stop this gibberish channeling, because it's not channeling. It's just you trying to inflate your ego by pretending that you are in contact with something higher up.
One thing that I'd love to ask you about is, how can we determine between thoughts and guidance in
thoughts and guidance? Well, I mean, the guides teach knowing, true knowing. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with thinking. We're thinking, all the time. I had to think about, what I wasn't aware today, and, what time I had to get up. When one has true knowing or knowing, there's never a question. Now,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but the concept of knowing.
Yeah.
I understand and agree with what you're saying, but for someone who has told themselves a story, and their egoic mind this is the knowing. I know this is true. How can you tell?
I love this presenter because he's being very, very honest about, he's not being honest, but he's being very polite about it. And I think really he's wanting to say to him that, how do you know the difference between something that's channeled from the spirits and something that you're just saying from your own mind? And I think he's saying it because he recognizes that everything he's saying is actually just of his own mind, but he's saying that it's from the spirits. And I think he's politely trying to tell him, well, how do you know this isn't just from your own mind? But yeah, the guy is not really accepting that. He's saying that, you know, whatever I've just said, I don't even remember it when I stop saying it. You know, it's all from the spirits, it's all from the higher beings, and the difference between them is that the knowing. And so he's almost just saying, if you know in your mind that what you're saying is from the spirits, that way you know that it's from the spirits. But that is a very false teaching. If you know that Jesus is talking to you in your head, that does not mean that Jesus is talking to you in your head, and therefore believing in something doesn't make it the truth. And that is basically what he just said, but that is how he understands his. That's how he's able to believe in what he believes, because he believes that everything he's saying is of the spirits. Now, this is a very dangerous teaching, because this is the sort of thing that does drive people crazy. And, you know, if they want to kill their neighbor, you know, they could say, oh, it's not me that did it, it was the spirit that's made me want to do this, not like it wasn't me. It's a way of dissociating yourself and saying that all the thoughts in my head weren't actually coming from me, they're coming from, you know, above a being. Now, if this guy is going to stay stable and clear-minded, then it's fine. But if he's going to start believing these spirits, you know, these spirits are not telling the truth. And if he thinks that they are telling the truth, then he can be quite a dangerous person. So, yeah, I wouldn't encourage this kind of channeling. But anyway, this kind of preaching does remind me of what Miley Cyrus was preaching. You know, you just need to create anything in your mind, and you can make that a reality by just believing that it is the truth. I mean, in a way, okay, you can make it more likely to be the truth, but that doesn't make it the truth. And but yeah, Miley Cyrus represents the angel of the human race, and the human race is a bit stupid. So believing things that, you know, if you believe something, you can make it truth. You know, that is the sort of thing that humans do believe, and it's not intelligent. I think a chaos is going to come soon, and it's going to end after the end of the 7 years. But yeah, if there's going to be a lot of people thinking that they can contact the Pleiadians, basically they're just going to start turning the thoughts in their head into some sort of god, and they're going to start just acting on whatever the thoughts in their head is telling them to do, which is actually just their own mind. I do kind of like the idea of there being a group of people that are claiming to be from a different world, a different species of planet, but I feel like this group of people need to be people that are very selective on who is and who isn't, because you don't want to get a whole bunch of mad people to believe this, because it's might turn out to be way more chaotic than you wanted.
Well, how can they know the difference?
Or how can you know the difference within your own life? Because there might be beliefs.
Oh yeah, there are beliefs,
and it's knowing of those beliefs. Like you and I both have our beliefs on how the universe works.
Yep.
Period.
But I don't say I know and it's a fact.
No, I say I have a belief.
Exactly right.
I literally say I have a belief.
Yeah.
I like how this guy says I have a belief, because that's how you should say it. Now the other guy also says I believe this, but when it comes to him channeling the spirits, he suddenly changes his tune and he says this is the fact because this is the fact of knowing, and knowing is the truth, so truth is knowing. You know, he would just say things like that, even though it's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like he's creating an alter ego with these demons or things that he's channeling.
And I'm trying to, and that picture is changing with every conversation I have. And that's the beauty of what I do. But I'm always trying to figure it out. But I have a belief of this was going, and it will adjust accordingly. But I think there's some core elements that, you know, reincarnation is, souls, you know, this, all these kind of core ideas, I believe that are a knowing. But how do I know? It's me knowing them or me knowing them in the head?
I don't know that I fully understand. I'm going to try.
Okay.
So when the guides say what is true is always true, they're not talking about subjective reality.
Okay.
So subjective reality is what I believe and what I think. So I can say I am a man of a certain age, I look a certain way, I live in a certain place, and those things would all be true today. Tomorrow I may be living someplace else. I may not look like I do today, tomorrow. All of those things may be true. So what is true is always true goes back to what is always present, which is the source of all things. And then it's irrefutable. So your question is really about how do we know the difference between what is true and what we believe to be true, I think.
Correct.
Let me see if they can go here. We would like to try. We would like to try. It's a good question in some ways. It's a good question in some ways. He's seeking to understand himself. He's seeking to understand himself and how he thinks and how he thinks.
And that's another thing that he's trying to deny. He's trying to deny the fact that this guy is saying, you know, how do I know that what you're saying is just of your mind or of the spirits? But he's trying to reflect it and say, oh no, this person I'm speaking to wants to know what's the difference between his thoughts and his channeling. He's not talking about me in any way, he's trying to deflect the problems that he has and say that, oh, this guy thinks that this is, might be his problem, but it's not mine. He doesn't think that this is about us, he thinks that we're actually channeling demons. He's just trying to get more information from us, he's in denial himself about how this other person is responding to his channeling.
It's 80% of what you think. 80% of what you think is somebody else's idea is somebody else's idea that you have inherited and believed to be so, and believed to be so. Now, it is true you're sitting in a chair. Now, it is true you are sitting in a chair, what you are sitting in, but what you are sitting in was once somebody else's idea of a chair, was once somebody else's idea of a chair, and that became the common field, and that became the common field. You all know what chairs are and what they do. You all know what chairs are and what they do. To realize yourself in a new way is to move to a new mind, is to move to a new mind, or a mind that is in alignment, or a mind that is in alignment with your essence, or true nature, that has not been preconditioned, that has not been preconditioned by the artifacts of history.
I'm pretty sure this is all completely off topic, because you're saying that if something is real in existence, if a chair exists, it's because someone else has made it exist, and that is how you know it's real, because someone else has made it exist. That's not the truth. It's there because it's actually there and you can actually see it. When it comes to channeling, you're channeling things that you can't see, hence it's got absolutely nothing to do with what he's talking about. Hence this is a completely ridiculous response and doesn't prove anything, doesn't explain anything, doesn't show anything, other than the fact that he's not actually channeling truth. He also made the statement that 80% of what you know comes from someone else, and well, that's not the truth. People can live in isolation, and hence a lot of things that they learn aren't from somewhere else, and other people can be complete followers and just believe everything that everyone tells them, or a lot of things that people tell them. So yeah, to say that everyone has 80% of their knowledge comes from somewhere else, I don't think you can make a statement such as that, because everyone's different. I feel like this is how you can tell the difference between a spirit that's really telling you something and something that's just in your head. A spirit that's telling you something will tell you something that you do not know. You know a chair is there. Now, if something tells you that there is a chair there and you go sit on it and you find that there is a chair there and you can't actually see it, well, then you know that there's a voice in your head that's telling you something, because it's telling you something you can't see. For example, I thought that I heard the voice say, "She is me," when I was listening to Aaliyah's songs. Okay, I didn't have instant proof that she was me. I felt like, what the hell, that doesn't make sense. And then when I was looking at her name, if you break it down, it says A to A, I, yeah. K could also say A to A, lie, yeah, so it could be a lie. But that's the thing about good and bad, is that you get, is this true, is this not? But there was also other things, Aaliyah meant return to Israel, and I was believing that I was Israel, and I didn't know that Aaliyah meant return to Israel. There's also her birthday. She was born on the 16th of January. Now the 15th is supposed to be Passover, of the first month, and so the 16th is technically the day after Passover, hence it's first fruits, hence the day the Christ is supposed to rise, things like that. I didn't know anything about her. And then I watched the Queen of the Damned video, where she's actually like a queen, an ancient queen that's come back from the dead. I'd never seen that film, but I felt like that film was more evidence, and therefore something is the truth when you get information that you don't believe is the truth, but then you do research into it and you find that actually this is the truth, and you literally did not know. Or say if it is telling you to do something and then you do something and then you find that you've learned something greatly large from it. Like, that's what's happening to me. Okay, I'm not speaking English properly. My English is all over the place right now, but often I find that I do something and then I find out why I did it afterwards, and that was constantly happening. A lot of times I would feel like something was leading me to do something and I wouldn't know why I did it or why I said it until after I said it. There's a lot of things that I randomly post online, and then afterwards when I see something else I think, now that's why it led me that. Like with the Taylor Swift's video the other day, I don't know why, but I kept staring at that butterfly, and I posted it online saying how she represents the newest me, but you have to choose her, not the Angel of the Pleiadians, who was a girl I found the day before. The song goes, you belong to me, and I was saying how you belong with me and not the Angel of the Pleiadians. But for some reason I was staring at the butterfly a lot and thinking, why am I staring at this butterfly? It's like something in my head is telling me to stare at the butterfly, and it didn't make sense. And then I came across a few hours later that butterfly song, Come, come, my lady, you're my butterfly.
Come, my lady, come, my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. And I ain't gonna lie cause your loving gets me high. So to keep you by my side, there's nothing that I won't try. Butterflies in her eyes and her looks to kill. Time is passing, I'm asking, could this be real? Cause I can't sleep, I can't hold still. The only thing I really know is she got sex appeal, I can feel.
And then it turned out that, okay, that guy had died, so it's a sad message, if there is a message. But that song of Taylor Swift with the butterfly in it, you know, that was her You Belong With Me song. So, yeah. I didn't really learn that much from it, but I can teach you that belonging to God doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be alive, because belonging to God just means, you know, life and death. Is that a good thing to Mitch? I don't know, but it's something that happened, and I feel like this is proof that some spirit is guiding me in some sort of way. It's showing me things before they happen. Something else leads you to something that you can't see, but you later feel you can learn something from it, or understand something, or see something that you didn't see before. But yeah, his definition of how you can tell the difference just didn't make any sense.
By the artifacts of history, the ideology of the past, and the mores of religion, and the mores of religion or ethics that you understand yourself through, This is not to displace those things. This is not to displace those things, is to understand the difference. It's to understand the difference. I'm feeling this way. I am feeling this way because this is what people are supposed to feel, is how the common field operates.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what he's saying. Do you? I think he did say something, can you tell the difference? I mean, I would say, can you tell the difference between my preaching, where I'm actually telling you things that actually make sense, and actually you can learn from what I'm saying because you can understand what I'm saying. You know, if you compare what I've said to what he is saying, you know, what he is saying is not making any sense. It's just, I have no idea. I can't even repeat it. I would have to literally write it down and then just read it off what he's saying, because it's not logical what he's saying. It's nothing. I don't know what he's saying. Whereas when I would describe what I was saying with my sort of butterfly analogy, you know, people die, but they also get a new life, and therefore you shouldn't see life and death as being something that God is punishing you for, but rather it's just the circle of life. And you know, just because you die, that doesn't mean you're not of God. It just means that you have, you know, a new life waiting for you, and you're now have passed on, and you're going to be at that stage. You know, a butterfly starts off as a caterpillar, and it goes through a cocoon, and then it becomes a butterfly, and it becomes something else. Now this is how you should see death. Your current life is the stage that you're at, and death is a bad thing, but you know, if you're going to be a butterfly in your next life, you know, then death is not a bad thing. It's just a chance for you to a new fresh start, a new life, new family, new parents, and you might actually find yourself being at a much better state of mind, like a butterfly. I'm not saying I don't like him, I'm not saying I do like him, I'm saying that I don't actually know, because as a human I don't know, but he belongs to God, that's what I can say, that's what my higher self is saying. But yeah, God and the devil are kind of the same people, so there's good and bad in everything, but I'm sure he'll be fine. I like that song, you know, that butterfly song. I mean, he only got famous because of that song, so I don't know. When a caterpillar makes a cocoon, it doesn't realize that it's going to be a butterfly. It might not realize it's going to be a butterfly, but it's doing what it does because it's its instinct. And likewise, if people commit suicide, that too could be seen as a type of cocoon that they are creating for themselves, because it's their instinct, because they want to go somewhere better, go to heaven. And okay, this heaven might not actually exist, but this heaven could actually just be their next life, and they could know that their next life is going to be much better, just like a caterpillar knows that if it creates a cocoon, it will, you know, turn into something better. Does it know it's going to be a butterfly? No, it doesn't, but I think it gets some sort of sense about it, and it follows its instinct. It follows its own personal guide.
Is how the common field operates. When you begin to understand yourself, in a higher way, the idea of self becomes other. I'm not who I thought I was. I am not who I thought I was. And there is confusion. Then there is confusion. But then who am I? But then who am I? As you understand yourself or comprehend the higher, it becomes far easier. Not relying on the religion.
Let me say something that's actually intelligent. You need to understand yourself, as in understand what you want from life, what you want to achieve, what your goals are. And okay, you might not be able to fulfill them in your current life, but if you stay realistic to goals in your current life, then you won't be disappointed by things you don't achieve. But it's always good to have big dreams and big goals, because maybe next life you will get that. You know, if you really want to be a god, I don't think there's anything wrong with believing that. Just know that it's not going to happen anytime soon. It's a very long-term plan. If you want to live forever, or just have, you know, more and more lives, then that should be your goal. And then therefore you should change your mindset about what you want to achieve in life, because if your goal is to just achieve and experience lots and lots of different things, then you have to realize it is a process of development, and it's not about the location, but rather the journey of the location. You know, you could love to get to a certain place and you could just get a plane there, or you could, you know, explore the idea of walking or going on a big long hike, or cycling around the world, or doing really big challenges. And you know, it's not wrong or right, these decisions, but if you are enjoying it, if you feel that you are getting something from it, that you are learning something from it, you know, everything is about learning and developing and changing, acknowledging, seeing what you are, what you like. So it's not just acknowledging, you know, yourself and being, I'm just going to be me. No, it's you saying, I'm going to be me, but I'm going to do lots of things and see what me likes best, what kind of things I have to do to achieve happiness and stuff like this. And yeah, it's not just ranting what he's saying, but learning everything. Oh, and another thing you should do is, if you are teaching people intelligence, you shouldn't start saying that this intelligence is coming from somewhere else. You know, I feel like I'm giving good advice here, and I'm not going to credit the spirits. No, I'm going to credit myself. Why? Because I am the one who is saying this stuff, and if I'm wrong, then I will take full responsibility for saying something that's wrong. I feel like if you blame the spirits for your teachings, you know, if you're saying something right, you can be like, yes, it's them that's doing this. But if you say something wrong, you know, that's them, it's not me.
You are not relying upon the old information to decide what is so, to decide what is so, and you begin to trust thought, and you begin to trust thought as essence, In other words, a true thought. In other words, a true thought will have its own resonance, will have its own resonance. You will understand it very differently, and you will understand it very differently from what you thought you were supposed to think, from what you thought you were supposed to think or believe yourself to be, or what you believe yourself to be. He was once 5 years old. He was once 5 years old. That is always true. That is always true. He was once 5 years old. He was once 5 years old. He was once never born. He was once never born. That is always true. That is always true. His idea of who he should be, was informed by others, That is always true. That is always true. That is not who he ever was. That is not who he ever was. That is always true as well. That is always true as well. Discernment plays out at this level. You understand the difference. You understand the difference between an old pretext, an old conditioned idea, and what is always true for you, and what is always true for you, and indeed for all, period. That makes sense?
Beautifully.
Okay, good.
Beautifully. Have you, and you mentioned you had an experience.
Were you hit on the head when you were very, very young? You know, like, did your parents drop you when you were a child? You know, that's pretty much all I want to say.
And I love to hear the guide's thoughts on this. How can we balance all this lovely stuff we're talking about, spirituality, and living in the real world, the material world?
They're saying this is the real world. If you think of it as other, if you think of it as other, it will never be the real world. It will always be a fantasy. How you walk around the block, how you treat your neighbor, how you bathe the dog, how you bathe the dog. That is all your spiritual practice. That is all your spiritual practice. God is wherever you are. God is wherever you are, and whatever you're doing, in whatever you're doing, to make it special.
I think I'm going to stop analysing him now, because I think I've made my point that he's obviously just talking nonsense, and he's not talking for any spirit other than himself. His view of God here just shows that he thinks that God is in everyone and is everywhere you go. Hence, he doesn't know who God is. And yeah, it's I don't know why people would do this, but getting a sense of grandeur from it seems to be the real purpose of it. That, or just to destroy Christianity and its beliefs.
To make it special as a religious service is not useful in this way. How you live your life, who you know you are, who you know you are as of source, what you are as an expression of source, and how you serve, which is how you are as expressed in your actions, in your field is how you live. You are as of source, no matter where you are. This is the real world. Everything else is the illusion. We're not saying that. We are not saying that to diminish your experience of the manifest world, to diminish your experience of the manifest world. But when you come as your spiritual self, your presence informs the physical world. Your presence informs the physical world and indeed alters it. That is our teaching.
Do the guides ever get frustrated with what they're seeing?
You are doing the work of love, and you're doing the work of the source of all things, and you're doing the work of the source of all things. Come as you. Indeed, God sees God. Indeed, God sees God in all of its creations, When you operate as the true self, you are not discriminating. Deciding who's allowed in, who is worthy of love, and who you should buy your purse from, and who you should hide your purse from. You are realizing yourself. At a level of tone where the manifestation of the world is altered by your encounter with it, That is what we teach. You all have the ability to do this. You all have the ability to do this. You must say yes, and say I am willing, and say I am willing to serve, period. They're saying period.
Beautiful. And finally, Paul, do the guides have any last crucial message they would like to give this audience and the world in many ways?
We would say one thing: there is no need to fight over what will never be solved through fighting. There is no need to war over what will never be justified, over what will never be justified through war. There is every need to love your neighbor, to lift the one beside you, to know that she is worthy, that he is worthy, regardless of who she is, regardless of who you think she is, or what he has done, When you all stand together and face the light, the light will shine and alter you. You will not do this. When you are seeking to subvert, or hide from the light, because you are frightened of it. Allow God to be God. Whatever that God is to you. It's a good first step. And put down your swords. Period.
And on that note, Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find out more about you, this new book, and the work that you're doing in the world?
My website's my name. It's just Paul Selig, SELIG.com. And the book's available in September.